I remember that one time, I came back from the national championship, and as usual, going into the national championship, you always have these set of players who are expected to do well. And I was always on that list, all the time. Whether it was billiards or snooker, I was always on that list where, this player is expected to do well. And most of the time, I would be one of them who didn't do well. So I think in 2009 or 10, I'm not sure about the year, I had a futile outing in one of the national championships, and on my way back home, I was flying from Chennai. I think the national championship was in Chennai, and I was flying back home, and I had checked in my luggage and everything, and I was with my boarding pass in my hand. I was sitting right in front of the check-in gate, and I was just blankly staring at the gate. I just didn't know what to do, because for me it was like the eye of the storm. I was calm because I knew something big was going to materialize out of me. I knew it. So, it was just that perfect calm between the storm. And suddenly, I didn't know how it happened. I'm sitting in front of the gate, and I just took my hands. I just put my hands on in front of my face, and I just started weeping. Because I could not handle the emotional turmoil. I could not handle the pressure. I could not handle the negativity, and I just took my hand, and believe me, that it was all impulse. Nothing, even my hands coming on my face was not a product of my effort. It was effortless, like my hand came on my face, and I just started weeping, and I weeping. And I missed the flight, because at that time, I think Chennai was a no announcement airport, and probably still is, I don't know. Or I don't know how I missed it, but I was sitting right in front of the gate, and I had a boarding pass in my hand, and I think I'll make for a very funny story of being the only person in the world, who has a boarding card in his hand, sitting right in front of the gate, and misses the flight. Because I was so oblivious to what is happening around me, so consumed I was with my own despair, that I just didn't know what to do, and I just kept weeping. And the one thing that was the most imposing thing was, I'm letting my father down, I'm letting my mother down, I'm letting this entity down, because look at what I'm doing. I'm this bunch of talent, always at the top, always the expectancy is from me to do well all the time, but I'm going out there, losing and coming back. So that evening, when I finally did get to board a flight back to Calcutta, I came back home, and while I was being driven back home, I told myself that this is the end for me. I'm going to pack up my cue, tell my dad that this is not meant for me. I've had enough. I can't deal with the emotional stress. I can't deal with the things that are happening in my life. I really want to enjoy my life, because I was depressed. There was snooker depression in me. There was cue sports depression in me. Everything around was beautiful. I had a house. I had a car. I had food to eat. I had friends, but I was not happy. I was going back home, and each day after practice, going back home, and the only thing that bugged me was, I'm nothing. I'm nothing. I'm not doing well. I've got myself to a position where people know that I'm talented, but after that, I'm not going anywhere. So when I was being driven back home, I made sure that I'm going to go back home and sit with my father and take this important decision in my life, that enough of this, I'm done with this, can't handle this, I'm going to find something else to do now.
Right.
When I reached home that evening, my mother knew something was wrong, because my eyes were swollen, they were red. The flight was miserable, like I had a headache in my flight. And when I went back home, my mom asked me, what's wrong with you? And there was not an utter from my mouth. Just went to my room, kept my luggage aside, kept my stuff, changed into my home clothes, and I went to my dad's room and I said, I don't want to play anymore. And he just looked at me and says, what do you mean? So I said, yeah, I can't play anymore. And I had tears in my eyes at that time, because I knew for a fact that there's nothing in this world that could bring me back to the game. Because I was done with it.
Right.
I was done with it.
Right.
Because I didn't want to be a mediocre in the game. Either I do it well and I achieve something, or I just do something else. I didn't want to be a state champion or a India number 3 or a India number 20. I didn't want to be that. So I knew for a fact that I've given myself these years. I've not been able to do what I want to do. So I'm done with it. So I went and I told him, And he just looked at me, with a very fixated glance, and he told me that, oh really, you're not going to play? So I said, yeah, I'm not going to play. I'm done with it. And he said, really? And who decides that for you? So I said, well, it's my decision. Nobody decides that for me. I can't play because you don't know what I'm feeling. So, you would not understand. Like, I'm hopelessly shattered. I can't play anymore. And even if you ask me to play on the table, I'll be miserable. So it's better that I lock up, try and do something else.
Right.
So he said, really? And the way he spoke to me, I was intimidated because he never shouted at me, he never scorned me, but there was an eerie sense of overpowering tone in his voice.
Right.
And I was getting really, really terrified of that because he said, really? Okay, and how do you decide that? So I said, that's my decision. And he said, really? So anything in your life in the future is going to be your decision, so we have nothing to do with that? So I said, no, I'm talking about this particular thing, I can't play anymore. He said, well, you can't tell me that we can only talk to you about this and not about this. So fine, I will wash our hands off you, you do whatever you want, we'll support you, so you don't need to play. So I said, no, I mean, maybe you're not trying to understand what I'm going through, and I'm done and dusted, I cannot do it anymore. So that's when he raised his voice at me for the first time in the evening. He said, who has given you the right to choose this path? Who has? Have I told you? Have I pressurized you? I know you're failing, but have I told you that you should stop playing? Have I told you that you have to achieve this, you have to achieve that? No, I'm not. There's no pressure from our side. But you have been given a talent. You have been given a platform. You have been given all the financial securities that you need to pursue your sport. And who is giving you the right to, just destroy this talent and tell me, one fine day that you don't want to play? I want to see you back at the practice table tomorrow morning. And I was looking at him zapped because I didn't know what he's saying. How can I be back at the practice table? Not a single bone in me can stand on a snooker table and play. When you are so shattered completely, emotionally. So I told him, no, that's not possible. I can't go to the table. He said, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, I want to see you at the practice table. And this drama that you did, he called it drama at that time. He said, this entire drama that you did is enough of it. Go back to your room, sleep, and I want to see you at 10 o'clock. And I've always been very scared by my father. I've always maintained that I am more God-fearing than God-loving. Similarly, I'm father-fearing than father-loving.
Okay.
I think you understand what I'm trying to say. I am father-fearing, I am God-fearing. Because I think that when you fear God, when you fear somebody who's above you, it sort of stops you from doing things that are probably not right.
Right.
Because there's somebody watching over you who is going to somehow or the other cost you for the wrongs that you're doing.
Right.
So I am father-fearing. So that was it. That was the end of conversation. He said, I would like to sleep now. And he was so curt and he was so to the point with me that I just left my room. I went back to my room and I don't know what happened. I somehow picked myself up that morning.
You were there next morning.
I got out of my queue and I went to the practice table and he was there waiting for me in Dolly Club, I remember. He was waiting for me and we went separately. Normally that never happens. We go together. So when I woke up in the morning, I asked my mom. My mom said he's already... That was his way of telling me that, look, I'm already there in the practice room and I want to see you there. So when I woke up, I didn't have time to have breakfast because I wanted to be there before 10 because I was scared. So I went to the practice table. I played that day. I buried my demons. I buried all my insecurities. And that was, I think, 2010, 11. I went on to win the bronze medal in the World Championships. I went on to win four national level snooker titles after that. Then I went on to win the Asian Billiards, the national championship, and finally the Arjuna.
That is one inspiring story.
So for me, it was my father who made me hold on to the last straw, literally.